Okay, looks like I am live. It's Wednesday, 5 o'clock, and welcome to this. And we have quite a crowd. We have quite a few people there. Thank you for joining me. Do say hello. We have one person saying hello. Hello, Paramjit. Thank you for joining us. Do say hello. I want to know who's joining us. Okay, so my name is Martin. I am with My IELTS Tutor. I'm one of their head tutors, and I have over eight years of experience teaching IELTS, TOEFL, and that includes also writing for IELTS and TOEFL and a bunch of other tests, and teaching spoken English. So I've taught all that. I also do other things as well. And it's my pleasure to be here with you. Now, be sure to follow us here on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram for tips and strategies. Be sure to like and comment. And you'll learn a lot. I give you guys a lot of great information that is tailored for you to use. Hello, Vikashini. I hope I said that correctly. Hello, Bubati, and hello, Arpita. It's nice to see all of you, and we can have more people. Those who just joined us, do say hello. I want to see all of you because it's certainly a pleasure to be here with you and to interact with you and teach you guys. That's what I'm here for. That's my purpose here, is for your benefit, not mine, but for yours. So it's a pleasure to be here. And at the end of the presentation, I will have a short question and answer session. If you have questions, I ask that you type them in chat. I'll try to get to them I'll do just 5 minutes. I'll try to answer the questions quickly as I can. Also, make sure that they are to the topic, to today's topic. Today, I'm going to be talking about how to plan and write the advantage and disadvantage essay. And so talk to me, if you have questions, talk to me about this particular essay type or the essay, task 2, okay? So please stick to the topic with your questions. Don't ask me about speaking or writing. And I also going to say this. This is just like last week's live session. This is basically a culmination of the previous months or so live sessions where I talk about planning, how to write certain different sections of the essay. And so I encourage you guys, and I really suggest you guys watch those videos, those live sessions I did, because you will learn how to write a very effective essay using those tips and strategies. Okay, so for instance, I talk about understanding the essay prompt, which is very important, because if you don't understand the essay prompt, you won't know what to do. Then planning, how to plan for the essay. And then how to write your introduction, how to write your body paragraphs, and how to write your conclusion. Okay, so I really suggest that you watch those type of videos. And again, watch the video, all the videos here on YouTube, on Instagram and Facebook, on our Facebook page, and you will get a great deal of free tips and strategies that will help you. And these are basically straightforward, they're common sense, and they're very simple, easy to do. So let's begin, shall we? Shall we begin, guys? I think so. Okay, so let's get started. Again, how to plan and write your advantage or disadvantage essay. All right, so Now, when we talk about this, what are the expectations for this essay? Each essay prompt has specific expectations for it. They're very similar, but it depends on the prompt. For instance, for this, we need to provide a clear opinion of which outweighs the other. So do the advantages outweigh the disadvantages or vice versa? Okay, that's a good vocabulary word for you. And I think you'll come across some good vocabulary in this, you'll come across some good vocabulary in this presentation, just like the last. So if you have pen and paper, you might want to write certain words down. Okay, so, and of course, be free to review this as well here on YouTube. Now, again, you want to provide a clear opinion of which outweighs the other. And so there's a trick to this, and I'll explain that later, okay? Because it's not, I'll explain that later. But there is a trick to this. There's a certain way of thinking in regards to this question, all right? But, you know, give clear opinion. Then you want to provide a clear explanation of each advantage and disadvantage, and you want to make sure you use the following: specific reasons, specific examples, and specific details, okay? It's important that you be very specific when you write, because Martin's rule of thumb here is the more specific you are, the better someone else is going to understand you, okay? So, and the more specific you are, the more you have to write, or in terms of speaking, the more you have to say. Okay, so you want to provide a clear explanation of why the advantages outweigh the disadvantages or vice versa, okay? So if you choose the disadvantage, if you think the disadvantages outweigh the advantages, then you want to explain why that's so. And then you want to write a 250-word minimum, 250 words, all right? And I don't want you to count words. I've talked about this before. Don't count words. Don't bother with the word counter. Focus on quality rather than quantity. If you do that, you will exceed 250 words, I guarantee. Now, also, this is important too. Have clearly written paragraphs of appropriate format, all right? That's important because you need to, in order to score above 4 in coherence and cohesion for writing, you need to have clear paragraphs, right? So you need your introduction, 3 body paragraphs. And I really recommend you write 3 body paragraphs. In this one, you could get away with 2, but I always recommend 3 because then you're more likely to get that 250-word minimum. Go over that. And if you write over 300 words, that's fine. If you may write 350, that's fine as long as you're relevant to the topic, okay? And then, of course, you need your conclusion. And I'm going to go through this from step 1 of the planning all the way to the writing the conclusion. Now, time allotment. It's important that we consider the time that you need to allot for the different aspects of the time that you're allowed. So, and I really recommend that you watch the video on planning your essay. So here, the total task is 40 minutes. Planning is 8 minutes maximum. You shouldn't go over that long. You shouldn't go over 8 minutes. We got a lot more people. Do say hello who's joined us. And if you have questions, be sure to ask at the end. I will do a question and answer period for about 5 minutes. So please give me some questions at the end. So planning should be 8 minutes maximum. However, the quicker you can get through planning, the better. Writing time, you should have 30 minutes. So you should have 30 minutes of writing time. And then you need 2 minutes, save yourself 2 minutes at the end for proofreading. Now, it is possible to finish early. If you do, use up the remaining time to proofread, to edit your work, okay? Do that. It will really pay off for you. Now, planning the essay. Let's talk about this. This is, now we have our essay prompt. First step is to understand the essay prompt. So step 2 is to rewrite the topic, basically paraphrase. Step 3 is to write your thesis. Step 4 is to in this case, we want to brainstorm for advantages and disadvantages, okay? Brainstorm for the advantages and disadvantages. Step 5 is to organize your paragraphs, okay? So this is the suggested format. Oh, that's in the next slide, next couple slides. But you want to organize your paragraphs, and I'll show you how. Now, regarding the thesis, we have to consider this. And this is the trick. The trick that I was talking about, okay? The task is you need to decide which outweighs the other, the advantages or disadvantages. Now, many people consider that, consider this wrong. Consider that, if you have more, if you can think of more advantages than disadvantages, well, then the advantages outweigh the disadvantages. But or vice versa, where the disadvantages may outweigh the advantages. That's not necessarily the way to go, okay? So you don't need to have more of one to think that it outweighs the other. For instance, numerically, there may be more disadvantages than advantages, but the impact of the disadvantages may be insignificant, okay? So for instance, solar power. Every house should have solar, the prompt should be every building should have solar power. Well, disadvantages might be that not everywhere has solar power. Not everyone can afford it. There might be a couple others, maybe more than, say, more of those little bit of type of disadvantages but you have your big advantages. It can offset energy costs for a family, can help family, and this helps families save more money, it produces more electricity that can flow, so it helps relieve energy gaps in energy supply, and so on and so forth. So so you may have a lot of these big advantages that really are advantageous, and so if not everyone is able to participate, it may not make a difference and such. So those little type of advantages may be insignificant. So here's what I suggest: consider the overall impact when deciding which outweighs the other. That's what I'm trying to get here, to convey here. Consider the overall impact of the advantages versus the disadvantages. Like I said, you may have a lot of disadvantages, more in number than the advantages, but clearly there are more. It's more beneficial to have something than to not have it, for example. Okay, so let's move on. Now, brainstorming. Brainstorming for this. What do we need to brainstorm? So the question here is, how many advantages and disadvantages are needed? How many should you brainstorm, right? You don't want a whole long list of advantages and disadvantages. So here's what I recommend. A minimum of 2 each. A minimum. Not just 1, but a minimum of 2, okay? And then finally, you want to have a maximum of 3. If you have those numbers, you will definitely write a good essay. Okay, you don't need to list every single advantage or every single disadvantages. 2 to 3, and they don't have to be equal in number. Keep that in mind. They don't have to be equal in number. Okay, so now, like I said, you could have you don't necessarily have to have 3 advantages and 3 disadvantages. All right, you could have 2 advantages, 3 advantages and 2 disadvantages, or excuse me, I was distracted there for a moment. You could have 2 advantages and 3 disadvantages, or 3 advantages and 2 disadvantages. They don't need to be equal in number. Now, step 1, let's get started now. Step 1 is understanding the essay prompt. Now, here is our essay prompt here. Taking a gap year to starting university has become quite popular among young people. What are the advantages and disadvantages of this? Do you think the advantages outweigh the disadvantages? Okay, so now, here we go. Understanding the topic. This is part of understanding the essay. So the basic topic is this: gap year prior to, the basic topic is gap year prior to higher studies, okay? And then the viewpoint. Many secondary school graduates opt to wait a year before starting college. So a viewpoint is that this is something that many opt for, okay? So that's it. Now the remaining steps. What are the remaining steps for planning? Now the second step is to paraphrase the topic. So we have here our paraphrase. It's become common for freshman students to wait a year before enrolling for bachelor degree programs, okay? Step 3, we want to write our thesis. Just now for your thesis, make it a quick, short phrase or 1 word, or a very short sentence here. Advantages outweigh, but only for those who take a gap year seriously. That's the thesis here, okay? And that's the trick. That's a trick. You don't have to really say outright advantages outweigh the disadvantages. You can qualify it. You can qualify your opinion. Only in certain conditions is, for example, only under certain conditions is this true, okay? Keep that in mind. That's an important point. Step 3, now we're going to brainstorm the advantages, the points. So in this case, we're going to brainstorm our advantages and disadvantages. So for advantages, we have gain new experiences. Disadvantages can lose focus. Then we have work experience for advantages. And then disadvantages, no plans or goals. And then learn new skills, can waste time, okay? So those are advantages, those are our disadvantages. Now, step 5, we're going to decide the order of our paragraphs. And this is what I recommend is, in this case, you see our thesis, the thesis say that the advantages outweigh, so I want to start with the advantages. First body paragraph is going to be about the advantages. Second body paragraph is going to be about the disadvantages. And then body paragraph 3 is going to explain why. Why, okay? So that's the order of our body paragraphs. Now we come to now it's time to write. So we write our introduction. So time to write the introduction. So the elements, now remember, elements required for the introduction are the topic statement, thesis, main points, or outline statement. And for a review, or if you haven't watched that video, watch my video on how to write an introduction. I clearly explain how to do it. And so let's take a look at two sample introductions, right? So our first one is this. Taking a year off prior to starting one's higher studies is now in vogue among high school graduates. That's basically a general statement. It's a paraphrase of the topic, and then many find a number of benefits to doing so, but there may be some drawbacks as well. This is basically a general statement, just kind of stating that there are advantages, there are disadvantages. And then the question is whether this is the right move for a student. This is basically a rhetorical point. It's kind of it's in one sense, it's introducing, it's kind of introducing my thesis, which is basically, actually it's a repeat. So I've repeated, sorry about that. I thought I caught that in editing. So it's really, the introduction is really 3 sentences long. The third one is the question is whether this is a right move for a student. And that's kind of basically my thesis is, it's implying there, okay? So I'm sorry about that editing error. Now, example 2, we have here, there is a growing trend among many students to take a year off. Okay, that's a general statement based on the topic. For many who do this, a gap year can be very rewarding. And that's kind of my thesis there. Even though there are some potential drawbacks in undertaking this, when approached with certain goals in sight, a gap year can have many benefits. And that's really reflects my thesis. Right. And then the final sentence here is my outline statement. It's going to explain, it's basically explaining how I'm going to approach this essay, how I'm going to write the essay. All right. So now let's move on to the next, body paragraphs. Now the body paragraphs, again, for this one, 2 to 3, but I really recommend 3. And so you want to have one body paragraph for the advantages, one body paragraph for disadvantages, and then one for the explanation of which outweighs the other. Okay. Your order generally from the strongest point to your least strongest. So in this case, what outweighs the first? What outweighs the other is what you want to start first. So in this case, the advantages outweigh the disadvantages, so I want to start with the advantages first. Okay, you could even start with the disadvantages, but I really recommend that you start with your strongest point. All right, you start with your argument for your thesis. That's the first thing you do. Okay, so the suggested format here is first sentence. And this is the order from you. Okay. I'm backtracking here to this, okay? The suggested type of body paragraph to use is a multiple idea body paragraph, all right? And review the video on how to write a body paragraph for more insight into this. But the suggested format for this is basically your first sentence is a general statement about, in this case, about the advantages or disadvantages or why. Okay, why one outweighs the other. All right. So the second sentence would be your first advantages, disadvantages, and reason. Okay. Third sentence, your explanation using reasons or examples. Fourth sentence, second advantage, disadvantages, or reason, okay? Then fifth, explanation. Then sixth, third advantages, and so on, Okay. Seventh, explanation. And then you finally, your eighth sentence, you want to give a conclusion. Okay. Now, it doesn't have to be 8 sentences. It could be a little shorter depending on how many advantages or disadvantages you have. Okay. It can really be shorter. All right. So, but it should be more than 5 sentences. I mean, shouldn't be less than 5 sentences. And then, so again, here my order is the first body paragraph is advantages. Second body paragraph would be disadvantages, and third body paragraph would be explanation of position. Okay, so that's the order. All right, now let's take a look at the body paragraphs here. Now the first body paragraph. So we have here. So I'll give you guys some time to read this. So this may be a little bit longer. The first sentence is basically a statement about kind of introducing the advantages. The first is to take a break from studies. Okay, so that's the first advantages. And then second, the second is the reason. Then the third is another, and it's more specific. And it's more specific the advantage. The third sentence is about new experiences. Okay, and then the next sentence gives an example, and then we have the sentence after that. This could lead a person to becoming more open. Kind of gives an explanation or kind of conclusion, a result of that. And then we have the next sentence is the next example, job experience. And then it just follows that format until we get to the end, where to the final sentence where it says, so if the time during this period is used wisely, then a gap year can be beneficial. So that's the conclusion of that paragraph. Now, let's take a look at the second body paragraph. Okay, so to all the people who joined, do say hello. I would love to hear from you. And also at the end of this, I will have questions, so please type your questions. I do ask that you keep your questions on topic for, in this case, for the essay. Okay, so now the second body paragraph we have here, I'll give you some time to read it, but it basically follows the same pattern. It's a little bit shorter, but than the first body paragraph, but it really talks about, it follows the same kind of format for the as the previous one. So it starts in with a linker in terms of disadvantages. That links, that's introduction. First of all, that's introducing the paragraph, and then starts with the first disadvantages, losing focus and ending up wasting time. So, and then it basically goes on to explain those. And then the final sentence here is our conclusion, basically a consequence, or kind of summing up. So these problems are likely due to the fact that the student has not given much thought. Hello, Parth, nice to see you. Okay, so as I said, the final paragraph's basically, final sentence in this paragraph is concluding, summarizing, or giving a reason why, kind of giving a reason, explanation why this why these advantages, why these are disadvantages. Now, the third body paragraph, again, follows the same pattern. It's basically kind of comparing and contrast, and that's the thing you can do for the third body paragraph, is to compare and contrast the advantages versus the disadvantages, or disadvantages against the advantages. Okay, so that's what I'm doing in this particular paragraph. So give you some time to read this. And of course, you can always come back to this and review it here on YouTube, and you can always review the other videos, and I really recommend that you do, for the writing and the speaking ones I've done here on YouTube, and also watch our videos on Facebook and Instagram for more tips. Okay, so that's this body paragraph. It's more of a single point, a single idea body paragraph. And so for this one, that would make sense. But you could use multiple idea body paragraphs here, especially when you're comparing and contrasting. All right, so moving on, our conclusion. Now, how to write the conclusion, it's a 4-step process. And for review, I recommend watching the video on how to write the conclusion. And so all you need for this is step 1, you begin with your connector. So to conclude, in conclusion, or in closing. Okay. Note. Now, it's important to keep in mind that the connector must be formal in tone, right? Your essay is considered academic writing, so you need to make sure that the tone is formal, okay? You want to restate your thesis. Basically, you want to paraphrase it. Don't use the same words as you did in your introduction. And that's important because you want to show paraphrasing is an important aspect in lexical resources for scoring that. And then step 3, you want to summarize your advantages and disadvantages. And then finally, you want to give either an additional opinion or call for action. Now, let's look at the conclusion for this essay. Okay, so our example here is ultimately that is the connector I'm using here. It is up to the individual and how they plan to use their time, right? So that's essentially a paraphrase of my thesis, and then the rest is basically the next sentence is basically. Next 2 sentences is basically a summary of the advantages and disadvantages. The first, so, and then the final sentence is my additional opinion, basically, or you can call it a call to action, but it's more an opinion. It's basically reinforcing my thesis. So the student should consider his or her reasons as well as their educational goals prior to taking this break, okay? So there you have it. That is the conclusion. Now, again, to review the expectations for this essay, you want to provide a clear opinion of which outweighs the other. And you want to provide a clear explanation of each advantage and disadvantages. And you want to use these things. And then you want to provide a clear explanation of why the advantages or disadvantages outweigh the other. Okay. Then, of course, 250 word minimum. If you write 300, 350, even 400, or even more, as long as you're relevant, that's okay. As long as you stick to the topic and you don't stray and it's relevant, you're okay. Remember, focus on quality, not quantity. And then, of course, have clearly written paragraphs of appropriate format. So that's it for today's session. I really want to thank you guys for being here. Certainly a pleasure to interact with you guys. I really enjoy doing these sessions and teaching you guys giving you guys important information that you guys need to succeed in your IELTS exam. Now, I want to open this up to questions for about 5 minutes or so. If you have questions, now is the time to ask. So I have one question. How can you improve your sentence structure? This is from Parth Patel. Okay. Moreover, I'm using connector and frequently, and I'm using it naturally while writing, and I notice it during proof. How to avoid. Okay, so how to improve your sentence structure. One of the things you can do is online. There are many web pages devoted to grammar, and so one of the things that you could look up is sentence structure exercises. Just look it up. How you can Google it. How to improve your sentence structure, and you want to practice. And there are because trying to teach you how to improve sentence structure is really difficult right now because I don't have a lot of time. But you can find lots of free websites where you can work on this, and even in practice writing. Okay. And you can also find exercises to this for writing, for improving your sentence structure. There's many free websites out there that you can go to. I think British Council has a good website for that. Okay, so now as to your second question, Parth, I'm not really sure what you mean, so I'm not sure how to answer that. Okay, so the thing is, you don't want to keep repeating the same connector over and over again. Okay, so one of the things I recommend is watch the video I did several months ago it's for speaking, but it's talking about connectors. They're basically called signal words and phrases, and you can find signal words and phrases for different ones for the same purpose. For instance is a good connector. I can also use such as. For example, those are very similar. And those are all for giving an example. As an example, that's another one, all in that one category. Okay, so and you can research this. You can find it readily available. So signal words and phrases. And watch the video I have here on YouTube for that. And all of you watch that. Okay, and the 𝐂𝐎𝐍𝐶, I hope I pronounced that correctly. If I didn't pronounce your name, I'm sorry. But watch that video, to answer what are the most important connectors to use. Watch that video, research them. There are not necessarily important ones, but you can use but you want to use a variety of different connectors in your writing and in your speaking too, and use them for the different, for instance, if you're citing examples, you don't want to say moreover, add more information. You don't want to keep saying moreover. That's boring, and it doesn't say, you're welcome, Parth. I'm glad I got it. So you don't want to use the same connector for the same purpose. use other connectors in the same category. Okay, so rather you say moreover once in one place, then say maybe furthermore, additionally, and such. Okay, like that. Gives you an example. Okay, so any more questions? I'm going to wrap it up soon if there's no more questions. I'm glad I'm able to answer your questions. So it looks like no more questions. So let's move on. And now, again, for information on this, on signal words and phrases, on speaking tips, reading tips, listening, writing, watch our videos, watch our content here on YouTube, on Facebook and Instagram. You will get a lot of resources that we put out solely for your benefit. And that's one of the special things that we do for you guys. So, and this is why I say my IELTS Tutor is the premium online IELTS training service. Much better than a brick and mortar institute where you sit in a classroom with 20 or 30 odd students and you're not getting the attention you need. With us, we offer small group sessions of up to 5 individuals. Excuse me one moment. It's rather hot here. So we offer small group sessions with up to 5 individuals, and you will get the attention you need. We also offer individualized training, especially when it comes to speaking, or if you want one-to-one training with just one instructor like me, like myself, you can say, I want individualized training. I want one person teaching me solely. You can have that because we tailor make a plan based on your needs, based on your desires and your goals. And these are the things that we offer. And so small groups, individualized training, personalized attention you won't get anywhere else, and a customized study plan is what you get from, are the things that really make us stand out. Really make us stand out above and beyond any other IELTS service. And these are our top trainers, myself, Nana Chabra, sorry ma'am, Nana, Ms. Amita. We are the head tutors with my IELTS Tutor. Together we have around 30 years of experience, and we've literally helped thousands of students achieve their goals in IELTS, and in other areas with English. So we are experts. We're IDP certified, we're trained, and we're experienced. So that's what sets us apart as well. Here are some recent scores for our students. And one of the things that we shoot for all our students is a minimum of 8 bands. Our goal for each student is 8 bands, and we do everything. And so our tips are 8 bands or higher. Our strategies are 8 bands or higher. We do everything we can to help you achieve 8 bands or higher. That's our goal for you, okay? That's our goal for you. And because of that, we're committed, and we're going to do everything we can to help you achieve that goal, which means that your bands are our responsibility. That's right. Your bands are our responsibility. So that's it for today, for this week's live session. I want to thank you guys for joining me. It's great to have you. You had some really, couple of you had some good questions. Thank you, Parth. And I'm going to call you Vivek because that's going to be easier for me to pronounce. So thank you for asking those questions, and you're very welcome. And I'll see you guys next week for more tips and strategies. Again, be sure to follow us. Watch our videos here on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. Be sure to like and comment on those as well. We want to hear from you. We want to learn, we want to hear on about how our content helps you. And so, like I said, we do everything we do is for you. Our students are our priority, our mission to help you guys achieve your dreams. Okay, so that's it for today. I want to thank you for joining me. I'll see you guys next week. Bye for now.